Hello and welcome to The Popcorn Isn't Real. I'm Leif Eric. I'm here with my brother Torvald.
Hi there. Welcome back.
I'm also here with special guest, my sister Breeda.
Hello.
And Breeda and I are in a car right now on a 10-hour road trip. So our microphones are going to sound weird.
Very special road trip episode today.
Yeah, very special road trip episode.
If only we had a road trip movie to talk about.
Yeah, if only we had.
Yeah, we also don't have any topics.
Yeah, if only we knew what we were doing. But we're going to have a nice, fun conversation. All right.
So have you guys seen any movies or anything this week?
No, we've been moving.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to hear about that, it's quite a story. But...
Well, what happened?
So we flew out on the 5th, and they were supposed to get there on the 8th. Now, I told my apartment complex that our last day would be the 9th to give us a little bit of extra time, right? Literally, the day we get there, after a 2-hour plane ride, 1-hour car ride, we get there, and then we get a call from Mom saying, oh, hey, I just got a call from the moving company, and they say they can either be there tomorrow or on the 10th.
What? Neither of those
this
are
is
the
when,
days
okay,
that you
so
wanted.
I had been told that they were coming on the 8th. Now, on the way to the airport, Mom told us that their range, which I didn't even know there was a range, their range was the 7th to the 9th. Which, again, that's okay. That still gives us, even if it's the 7th, we still have at least a full day, right? So we get there at like 6 p.m. and we're told that they're coming tomorrow. And at this point, so Mom calls me, then the moving company calls me, and the lady is like, yeah, so they'll be there tomorrow, and the window of time is from 10 to 2. As soon as I hang up with her, I get a call from the guy who's actually going to come do it with the moving. And he's like, yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. We'll be there between 8 and 10. So, like, the time kept moving up, right?
They were just itching to help you move. Right. They couldn't wait.
So Breeda and I are like, wow, we have hours to clean and organize this whole house. Yeah. And so we're like, well, we got to get rid of lots of stuff. We got to sort and organize. And we were doing it until like so late at night.
We went to bed at like 2.
Yeah, we need to be up before.
We got up at 5.
Yeah, we got up at 5. So we got like 3 hours of sleep. But there were just so many things on our to-do list of things we need to sort and move and blah, 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 blah. And so they just come in and they're like, we're here to move. And they were packing too, right? Because we knew we had to do this move quick, and it's just Breeda and me. But they were just packing everything, you know? And like, so we're trying to be like, well, maybe, you know, not that. But eventually we just kind of stepped aside because it was like a wrecking ball or, you know, just an avalanche, train wreck.
Hold on, I don't understand. Why didn't you want certain things packed?
Well, just because we hadn't had a chance to really look at everything, right? There were things that we weren't going to pack.
Well, listen.
There was just lots of different things. And we had discovered a pile of dirty towels that had been there for who knows how long. And we put them in the laundry hamper because we're like, we will do this laundry, because you can't do laundry after a certain hour in this apartment building. So we're like, we'll do this laundry in the morning. But then in the morning we had so much to do, and like we completely forgot about it until literally after they had left. We were like, dang, we're sweaty. We need showers. Do we have any towels left? And I was like, oh no, the towels. I packed our stinky, dirty towels. They're not here anymore. We're looking everywhere for them. They're gone. And yet they left random things that like we did want packed, like the printer. But there were 4 guys, and like clearly one of them was really smart and knew what to pack, but a lot of them weren't. And we're just like, this goes. I don't know what this is. We'll just leave it.
Oh no.
And so like,
printer?
and then we ended up getting, we ended up getting charged more because we hadn't had time to like get rid of stuff. So they're just packing up all our junk, right?
Would you say it's the you got your money's worth? Like,
was
it worth it?
So like, I think they were good at what they did, but I also do question the whole moving it up like 5 times. I think if you are paying someone to pack you up, they come when you are moving and not when they find it convenient, right? They come on the day you say. That's what you're paying them for. So that's one thing. I did wonder if they had moved up the date several times to give us less time to sort so that we would have more boxes, so they could charge us more.
I mean,
I don't know.
That's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. I mean,
what evidence do you have to back up this theory?
I think I've already backed. I mean, there's like nothing we can really do at this point. So, or at least not without a huge headache. So, gosh, I just can't get over those dirty towels that are going to be sitting in storage for 2 months.
They already smelled so bad. I cannot imagine No, they will smell after being in storage in the heat.
And maybe
for
it'll
months.
get so bad it'll loop back around to being good.
Yeah, like how you ferment wine. And
Yeah.
Okay, so
Fermented
everything
towels.
went to storage.
What we were trying to do yesterday was we were trying to get here, get rid of everything we don't need in storage, and then set aside everything we need with us so that everything else
no.
could get packed
But
by
you
them
ended up
and go into
putting
storage.
everything in
but instead of-
storage.
And instead, we
Instead of-
ended up putting a bunch of trash in storage and taking a bunch of things we don't need back with us, like the printer.
Right. But we thought we were going to have 3 days to organize, you know? And we had like 12 hours, if that.
It sounds
that's
to me
why I
like
would say Eric has some valid evidence for his
No.
conspiracy theory.
So mom gave us a $100 bill, which I realized when she gave it to me, I had never seen a $100 bill in real life
Oh, really?
before.
I used to work in loans, so yes, I have.
Yeah, Breeda was a loan shark.
I was a
You
loan
can't
shark.
see her, but she's like this big buff bodyguard, you
Beat
know.
people up for a living.
she
Yeah.
has like multiple rows
6
of
foot
teeth,
tall.
never sleeps, and
Can only move
skeleton made
forward.
of cartilage. She stops
shark.
swimming, she dies.
Yeah, all those things. Eric was talking.
Right. So she had given us a $100 bill to tip them with, but like these guys were out of there as soon as it was over. He was like, "Bye," and they just left. And I was like, I had the tip, but but then they didn't get it, right? Because they were
I
just
mean,
out of there.
maybe-
And so they had taken our trash bags.
What?
there was a baby bouncer that was sitting near a box of trash bags. The main mover and I were on opposite sides, so I could see the baby bouncer, and I think maybe he could see the trash bags. From my perspective, he pointed to the baby bouncer and said, "Should we pack that?" And I said, "Yes." And then later,
no.
when they left, the baby bouncer was still there, and the trash bags were gone.
But interestingly,
Oh,
those
no.
trash bags were in a cardboard box, and they left the
They left the
cardboard
box. They took the bags
They took the
out
bags
of the box.
out of the box, packed them elsewhere. Left the baby bouncer.
Wow.
And so I was running after them, being like, "Wait, we need those trash bags. We're still
They
cleaning."
were gone.
And they were just out of there, man. They were gone.
Oh no.
And
The confused
so, like,
moving company.
there was no possible way I was ever going to be able to tip them.
Yeah, well, luckily they
I mean,
can take some trash bags for
Probably
their trouble.
they were sitting
Yeah.
there like, dude, this guy is so weird. He had us unpack his trash and then repack it. Let's get out of here.
I know.
Done.
You
I don't want to
pack
shake
his
his
dirty
hand.
towels.
Like,
And yet
they
he didn't
probably
want us to take
thought
his
you were just
printer.
as weird as they were.
They left at least 10 extra rolls of tape in our apartment.
We just kept finding them.
We just kept finding more and more rolls. They weren't even done.
Wait, so they brought tape with them, which
Yeah.
they then hid around your apartment
Yeah,
an
like
Easter
an
egg
Easter,
hunt?
a fun Easter egg hunt, but with moving. They were like, moving's
Yeah,
pretty hard.
except for
Let's
the-
find a way to make it a little
Except for
happier
the fun
for them.
part. They're like,
They're like,
you know, as
"Ooh, I
movers,
wish I could see their faces when they found that tape I
They're
hid.
gonna love this.
like, who doesn't love finding tape? We're movers. We love
Love
tape.
it.
We love tape. Tape is great.
All right, so how many thumbs up to give my theory?
I'll give it a half a thumb.
Oh, that's.
Is that
it
how you guys
bleeding?
rate? And also, how many thumbs is this out of? 2?
2. Yeah, I got 2.
I mean,
Alien. Well, Breeda doesn't have any
unless
thumbs 'cause
something's
she's
really
sharp.
good.
Yeah, I only
right, like
have
we
fins.
we invited you, Breeda, so we could have some extra thumbs,
yeah,
right?
this is why we can have
You
six
Well, we
just
should
give
have
us a
invited someone with opposable thumbs.
Yeah, that's true.
rating. Dang it. Congrats. I'm glad you got everything out of there and have a safe trip home, I guess.
All right, this has been the popcorn isn't real.
Wow.
Dude, what a great theory. So, who do you guys think was the best captain in Star Trek?
So, are we concluding reboots like Chris Pine?
Yeah, of course. Every single Star Trek iteration is okay here. But
Okay.
for me, like, of course, Picard, he's a master negotiator.
He is.
He's very level-headed, keeps his cool under, the most stress. But then you got Janeway. I mean, Janeway's nuts. She's an utter psycho. She'll send you out the airlock.
And that
just
makes her a
because
better
she
captain?
doesn't have the facilities to keep you in the brig for the rest of the trip. Sometimes decisiveness makes someone a good captain.
I will say, with only intimate knowledge of perhaps 3, which would be William Shatner's Kirk, Chris Pine's Kirk, and Captain Picard. I mean, I think that Picard, I would, of course, vote for him because he's awesome. But I think that you make a good point that he's a master negotiator and very calm under stress. But he's especially good for what Starfleet is, which is a peaceful organization.
Right.
That is their job is to meet other nations and get them to join their federation and such, and to not cause wars. But during a time of war, I don't know if he would be as effective as a captain.
Well, and you bring up a good point, which is, should the Federation be a peaceful organization? Like, their galaxy is really, really dangerous and full of like war and stuff, right? Like, I think they're kind of kidding themselves by pretending to be a peaceful organization, because they are not. Like, they're clearly militaristic, right? Like, everything they do turns into a military engagement.
Considering the size of their galaxy, though, I think it's amazing they do have as much peace as they do,
That's true.
There's so many different species
and so many of them have warp capability too.
Right. Even with the Romulans and at one point with the Klingons, like, they've established neutral zones and treaties and stuff like that. Like, so it's not like they're in constant war.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good track record. I will also say, as an anthropologist, I think I'm a pretty big proponent of an organization whose job is to meet other cultures and not try to be militaristic toward them, and to meet them on their terms.
Sorry.
Do we need to take a pause while Eric coughs?
Gonna be on Breeda's talking just then.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have been quieter.
I choked on my drink.
Probably
Take another
because
drink.
you're drinking urine.
Yeah.
I joke
Is
on
that
that
all
too.
they left
I
you?
poured.
Yes.
Our own
We're
urine.
left with nothing.
I mean, it's the pandemic. We can't go to the store.
Yeah, come on, Torvald.
Oh no.
Where else are we going to get
We've
water?
been drinking our urine for months.
2 days. Oh, wait. Yeah.
You are in a desert, I guess.
Yeah. No, Eric's drinking a rock star, but so that it didn't spill.
No, it's a monster.
A monster, sorry. He's drinking a monster, but so that it didn't spill, he put it in an empty water bottle, and then we noticed
Looks like
how
pee.
much it looks like stale,
'Cause
dehydrated
the
urine.
can of Monster Energy drink is green.
And black.
Yeah.
And so I assumed that it would also be green in color like Mountain Dew, but it's yellow. I guess maybe Mountain Dew is yellow too. I don't know.
I think Mountain Dew is yellow. It's just through a green bottle.
Well, but why would they dye it when no one sees it?
That's how I feel about myself. Why dye it?
Yeah.
No one sees me.
That's right. It's the pandemic.
Oh, dude. I just came up with a great catchphrase for obesity.
During
At
the
least for
pandemic,
shut-ins. Yeah. But back to my point from before Eric started choking. I was saying that as an anthropologist, I feel that an organization whose job is to explore and meet new people on their terms and in their culture, in their way, is actually very important. And I think it's actually a really useful thing that, for example, the Federation will meet a new culture and maybe see something that they consider like oppressive or bad about them, and yet they still have this prime directive that says, no, you can't get involved with that, because like it's not fair to assert our mores and moral and ethical beliefs on another species, on another culture and group that we don't know. So I think that from those terms, I think it's better that the Federation is a peaceful organization.
Like, what the standpoint that you're taking, it relies on the assumption that the Federation is better than everyone. Right?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't
Yes, that's
at all.
the only way they can take that standpoint. I mean, and they actually portray this very well in the show when the Federation comes across species like, for example, the Borg, who are just going to come in and steamroll them because they have a completely different culture and are far more advanced than the Federation. There's literally nothing they can do. Like, the only reason they didn't get absolutely assimilated by the Borg was because Clue clued them into it, right? And I guess Whoopi Goldberg helped. And then Janeway helped.
And Picard helped.
Wow.
I don't understand how them not getting destroyed by the Borg because of luck or whatever you're saying means that they are better than everyone.
Well, I'm saying that for them to take a standpoint of we are peaceful, we don't interfere, means they're also assuming we're better than anything that we're ever going to meet, right? Like, they're saying we're the top of the top, so we need to kind of take care of every other society, right? Whereas there might be other societies, other species that are more advanced than them and are going to kill them. Right? Mm-hmm. And if they approach a society that is more advanced and also going to kill them from the standpoint of, we won't interfere with you, it's not going to end well for the Federation, right?
I don't think that your logic quite follows. Like, I think that, again, like, I am an anthropologist, and so I can say, like, I could go and want to learn about a culture that, you know, doesn't have the same technology that our culture does, or I could go and learn about a culture that is very advanced and maybe even has better technology than we do. And I don't think me wanting to learn about either one of them is me saying, like, well, you can't kill me, so I'm going to come learn about you.
Right, but you're kind of equating an entire civilization to a profession, right? Like, you're saying the entire Federation represents anthropologists.
No, I'm not saying that the Federation represents anthropologists. What I'm saying is that from an anthropological standpoint, I think it's very important for an organization to take this non-interference standpoint. Like, I think that that's a good thing.
Right, but then what do they do if they come up against a civilization that just wants to kill anthropologists?
Well, right, and that's why I would say that, like, the Federation, like you were saying, well, should they be militaristic? Like, that's why they walk this middle ground. It's exactly that. It's that.
Right. So does that mean that Kirk could be a better captain?
Like, they didn't hunt down the Borg.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think they still fall on that more non-interference line, but like Torvald's saying, they may run into something that is powerful and wants to kill them, and so they do have defensive capabilities. In fact, Kirk even says that at one point.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is that they didn't need to kill the Borg, but they did need to be able to withstand the Borg to continue their non-interference policy, right? Like,
yeah, but you started this off by saying, like, maybe they should be more militaristic, and I'm still saying, like, I think the amount of militarism they have is good and perhaps could stand to be toned down.
Well, it's because the Borg were on their way, and if Clue hadn't let them know, then they would not have been advanced enough to withstand the Borg.
Clue?
They would have died.
Isn't it Q?
It is
Sorry, Q. I'm calling him Clue.
Clue is from Tron.
Q.
Yeah.
I called him Clue because I said clue him in.
Yeah.
Wow.
It took us way too long to notice that.
Yep. No. Sorry. Yeah, Q let them know that the Borg were coming, and I'm just saying if he hadn't, they would have died, right? Like, they would have been assimilated. There was nothing they could have done to stop the Borg. So maybe a standpoint of we need to be prepared for other civilizations to come and attack us would have been more beneficial to them. Then Q, well, then Q wouldn't have had to come and help them, right?
Yeah, but I think at the same time, like, that's the problem then, though, is that if you're like, okay, well, we're going to, you know, be more advanced so that we can defend ourselves better, so that we can even maybe protect other civilizations from the Borg or whatever it is, that can also be seen by other civilizations as, like, military stockpiling and getting you into an arms race, right?
No, definitely, yeah.
And so then that just invites further danger.
Do you rely on a benevolent god named Q to save you?
Well, I mean, no, but do you also, like, get into an arms race and have a Cold War, but now in space? Like,
I mean, that's what they did, though. They had a big Cold War in space
with the Klingons,
for the entire show.
I mean, they did do that. I don't know.
Right. And under, I think under Kirk's rule, under Kirk's captainship,
under his lordship.
I think that, I don't know. I mean, he might have been better equipped to deal with a situation like that because he was more, like you said, militaristic. Like, he was thinking more along the lines of a military man than Picard was, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think that is, to get back to your original question, which of these captains was the best, I think that is the best argument for perhaps anyone in favor over Picard, is that he's not as well equipped to deal with military situations. And Kirk definitely, I think, is. It sounds like Janeway perhaps is as well.
My vote is for Captain
Janeway's
Pike.
just insane.
Pike, okay. What's
he
your
just
vote
turned
for
into a
well, maybe he votes for
wheelchair.
No,
Pike.
because Pike is just Kirk light. And we just made an argument that maybe Kirk would be better, but he's a little bit of a loose cannon, so go with Pike.
Okay, so you are doing TV show Pike, not movie Pike.
Because, you know, he's like Kirk, but just not as extreme.
But I don't know that you have enough evidence to support that,
Dude,
because we only have one episode's worth
I've
of
got some
information
evidence.
about Pike.
Okay, go for it.
Go.
All right, so in that episode, the only episode with Pike, I guess we're going with, what were they called? The Menagerie?
Yeah.
Is that the one that ended up airing?
Yes, that is the episode
and then
that aired.
the original was The Cage, I think. But in the Menagerie, Pike is the captain, and number one is number one, who is actually Luoxana Troy.
Yes.
But anyway, and then what's his name? I know his name. Leonard Nimoy. Spock. He's the science officer, right?
Yeah.
So Spock is the only one still on the Enterprise from Pike to Kirk. He's the only one who actually stayed with the crew. Now, in that episode, that is one of the few, if not only, times where we see Spock openly smiling and like having an enjoyable time without being like mind controlled. Right? Like he smiles, he smells the flowers, he looks at Pike with like a jovial expression. Like Spock is enjoying himself and he's allowing himself to enjoy himself.
Yeah, I remember I was pretty freaked out when I saw that episode and Spock was smiling.
Yeah, it is.
It's
like,
really weird, right? But that might be because Pike is just such an awesome guy. He's just so freaking cool. He makes even Spock feel great.
You're right. So this is a favor of him.
Yes. He's
right. If he can make even a Vulcan feel just jovial and happy-go-lucky, then he is the person to bring peace to our galaxy.
Okay, but counterpoint. What if the reason Spock was jovial and happy was not because he was so enamored of Pike that he was just letting himself feel, but was instead because this is when he was a younger Vulcan. This was perhaps right after he left the Vulcan Science Academy, decided to
He's still got a little human left
Exactly.
in him.
He's still kind of experimenting and maybe even rebelling. Like, I want to live out my human roots, and this wasn't until he decided. Later, he decides, like, actually, no, I want to be full Vulcan. I want to not live that part of my life.
Right. So I've actually heard two theories about this. The one theory is kind of along the lines of what you said, which was this is right when Spike. When Spock decided to go and join the Federation and basically become a human, right? Like, he left the Vulcans to join the humans, and he had made a conscious decision to embrace his human emotions at that time.
Yes.
Just because that was what he wanted to do, and then later kind of rescinded on that decision. I've heard that theory. I've also heard the theory that Pike was just that much more of a serious, hard-ass captain than Kirk was, that it forced Spock to kind of open up and be a little happier just to keep the crew morale up. But I don't know if that
does make sense. It would be the logical thing for Kirk or for Spock to do.
Right, exactly.
That would be against my point.
And we do see him do things like that, like sacrifice his own pride to help out, for the good of his crew. So I thought, there's maybe some truth to that, but...
Yeah, and there is the line from the movie, although said sarcastically, and again from the movie, not the series, but where McCoy tells him, like, you just threw or stranded Spock. Kirk.
Whoa, Captain Cock.
Captain Cock is objectively the worst captain.
I don't know. I think he might be the best. I love Captain Cock.
No, I think Captain Spike is the best.
He's pretty cocky.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, sorry. So he says McCoy says you've just stranded Captain Kirk. Well, he wasn't the captain. First mate Kirk on this ice planet, and you're not showing any emotion. Like, what's wrong with you? And Spock responds, if it will help the crew morale for me to be weeping and moaning and like going about the ship that way, then I will gladly defer to your medical opinion. So I would say that makes precedent for the fact that yes, he can show emotions for the good of the crew, even though he doesn't necessarily agree with them or wouldn't do it normally.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
There you go. So,
what about,
but that's an argument that Pike was actually a bad captain, because you're saying that Pike was so bad that other crew members needed to compensate for his badness.
I would say the argument that Spock is the best captain could be made because he is very logical. He makes very good decisions. The problem is they specifically have one episode where they kind of try to counterpoint that. It's the one where he goes with a shuttlecraft and gets stranded on a planet.
Stupid.
It does. It's terrible, and I thought that it was poorly done and that the moral was bad. But I would say that is evidence.
You don't have a heart. You need a heart.
Yeah.
You act like a machine.
It was really bad.
Well, but Spock was right with every decision he made. He just happened to be with an idiot.
No, exactly. He was right with every decision he made. And like, he could have made other decisions, but they wouldn't have necessarily been better. Like, for example, he could have like said, okay, yeah, let's go do a show of force to scare off this native tribe of giants. And that could have actually caused the tribe to like just destroy their ship and kill them all right there. But we'll never know because we didn't get to see that. We got to see him being a logical and more anthropological person and saying, no, we're not going to just destroy this civilization or terrify them or anything like that. But I would say that is evidence perhaps that he's not as good as a captain. The other evidence I would say is that we know that he never seeks for command. Like when he's under Kirk, he's never trying to be in command. And even in alternate reality where they're like the most militaristic federation and everyone's like evil or whatever, and Kirk has a beard, that they go over into that reality, and he would have every reason in this reality. Like they tell us that it's very common for first officers to murder the captain so that they can take command. And I think McCoy even accuses him of trying to do this. But instead, that Spock in this alternate militaristic reality decides to help Kirk and McCoy and whoever else they're with get back to their original reality so he can get his captain back, because he does not want command. And so I would say that like it's possible that these are evidences. But do you remember
his reasoning behind it? Why didn't he want command?
I mean, I thought he said he didn't want to get killed, right? Like the person in charge is the one who gets murdered.
Right. It was because he saw more gain for himself in his current position. Like he thought he would do better, like personally, like he would get more from not being the captain. He kind of wanted a fall guy, right? And
logical.
No, I think that is
kind of
logical,
shows
but I
that
also
he's
think
good at leading, right? Like he knows how to game the system.
But he's good at leading from not a leadership position. Like I think that he could be the best like leader, but he doesn't want to sit in the captain's chair. So he needs to be heard, not seen,
is what you're saying.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. And so I think that would be an argument against him being the best captain, is that he doesn't want that position, and like that's not where he does his best leading from.
Yeah. Also, you know who's really good? Captain Sulu. Because he says, this is the USS Excelsior. We are here to assist you.
Dude, he'll
so
always
he's good at
assist
assisting.
He's also really good as Captain Sulu
and then in the trailer,
in the movie.
Kirk says, fire.
Did that makes Kirk a good captain or a bad captain? What do you think?
I don't know.
That makes Sulu a great captain. No, he's also a good captain in the new movie. In Star Trek Into the Darkness, Kirk leaves him in command so that he can go get Capture Khan, and he's the one to send a message down to the planet to say we are prepared to unleash the entire payload. And he says, "If you test me, you will fail." And he's just so hardcore, so maybe he's a really good captain.
He is pretty good.
Oh no. You're cutting out. We're getting snatches now.
Hey, I can hear you. Yay.
You can hear us.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
What the heck is that? The Mothman just flew over?
Seriously, did you see it?
What was that?
I don't know. We just saw like the weirdest...
massive, fast-moving shadow just passed over the road, like some giant jet fly, but it was huge. Like it must have been a big jet, but we couldn't see it in the sky. Weird.
Oh, we lost him.
It was going so fast.
Torvald, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yay!
Okay, great.
Things seem okay now.
And we've left that terrifying shadow behind us, so let's keep going.
Mothman.
You mean like the horrible conversation we were having?
The specter of bad audio.
Going in Sulu territory was a bad moment for me. You know who I do like? Breeda hasn't seen this, and neither of you, so. But I like Captain Lorca from Star Trek Discovery. He's actually an awesome captain, right up until you realize the writers didn't write him very well. He was just a good actor, and the writers had a terrible plan for him.
No.
We don't have to talk about Captain Lorca, though, because no one else has seen it.
Yeah.
One comment that I wanted to make, just talking about the militaristic side of things. So, in the alternate military Star Trek universe,
yes,
Picard is still a captain, and I would argue is a very good captain still, even as a very militaristic man.
That's
as
the one
evidenced
where he
by
refuses to ever surrender, right?
Right. The episode where they just they shove it in the face of the writers of the pilot, and everyone on his ship dies one by one around him as they're just being bombarded by like 6 Romulan warbirds. And then the Romulan comes on screen and he's like, "Captain Picard, your crew is dead. Surrender now." And Picard goes, "That'll be the day," and leaps over the console and runs over to the gun controls and starts firing torpedoes at them. He's so freaking cool. But no, beyond that,
Wait, does
He was
lose?
also. I mean, yeah, they were going to die, but they fixed the alternate universe thing.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily make him a good captain.
No, so that's where I was going to get to this. So in that episode, I don't remember exactly what happens. Who is it? Is it Guinan who goes over to the alternate universe, or?
I don't remember. I haven't seen all of Next Gen.
As far as I remember, in that episode, somebody kind of went from the real universe into the military universe.
Seems likely.
And
that's usually what
basically had to convince Picard to kind of work with them to get them back into the real universe.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, it was. I don't know if it was her, but didn't it have to do with Tasha?
Well, I think it was. I think it was the universe where they.
No, it was a ship. It was a ship full of people that they didn't even know who had come.
No, it was the Enterprise C that had gotten destroyed by Romulans.
Yep.
And they jumped through a hole that brought them back there. But I'm not sure if this is a different episode or not. This is where I'm getting confused.
Okay, well, maybe it is. But I thought it was that one.
Anyway, in one episode, they are in the alternate universe and they are on their own ship, and it's Picard who's in command. And all I know is that despite taking a very militaristic approach to things, he also was logical and tried other options and angles. He considered the scientific approach and considered other ways about it, which eventually resulted in a good outcome, which brought them back, to the normal universe. Even though it did end up with his own ship being exploded in the military universe.
But so it kind of shows he's a good guy.
Yeah, sure.
Even when he's a bad guy.
Specifically, what happened in that in that episode? I wish we should have done some research.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
It's almost as if none of us knew we were going to be doing this.
Another point to make about Kirk specifically, an important aspect of him as a captain and as a person is that he takes a viewpoint which is that there is never a no-win situation.
Yep.
His viewpoint is that you can always find a way to win, even if, even in the most dire straits, and even if you maybe have to sacrifice yourself, you can always find a way to win, right? Mm-hmm. This is evidenced by his editing of the Kobayashi Maru program, which he altered to reflect his worldview, which is that there is always a win. But also, more importantly, going deeper, it stems from his childhood, where he grew up on a colony planet, and that planet was facing a huge famine and drought. And basically the guy in charge decided, we're going to cull half the population.
Yes.
And that guy's name was Thanos.
No,
it wasn't Thanos. But he did decide to kill half of the people because he was like, well, we only have enough rations and water for half of us, so half of us have to die. And Kirk was very, very adamantly against that. And he believed that even though they didn't have enough resources for all the people, they could have still found a way out. And I mean, I think this makes him, if not a good captain, at least a very altruistic captain, even though he's more militaristic than Picard. It shows that he does look for that peaceful option, right? It's not like he thinks, okay, there's only enough rations for half of us, well, then half of us have to die, right? He's not centered around death and destruction.
Right.
Just because he's a little more willing to fight, rash. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to make an argument for Kirk as the best captain, but at the same time, he was written before a lot of the other captains, and I think that, it's just, I think that the main argument you'd have to make for him is that his kind of more rash and just decisive nature is what makes an excellent captain. And they do make that argument in the show, right? Because there's the episode where Kirk gets split into two, and he has one side of him that is decisive but insane, evil and lustful and stuff. And then he has the other half of him that is very nice.
And a great actor.
So good. He has the other half of him that's very nice and a good person, but can't make decisions. Yeah, and starts just crying when they ask him to make a decision. He doesn't quite do that. But yeah, and so the idea that they're making there is that even if that decisive part of you is tied to some very negative emotions and some very bad things, it is so necessary to be a captain that Kirk literally couldn't do it without it, and that he was dying without it. If you make that argument that decisiveness is what makes a captain, then perhaps you could make the argument that Kirk is the best, although I think it's clear from the way I said it that I still wouldn't make that argument.
Okay. Well, then I have another question, because it seems like we're kind of going back and forth debating Kirk versus Picard. In that case, I'm going to present to you a situation. If they each had an equal ship and an equal crew, and they were going to fight each other, who would win, Kirk or Picard?
What would happen? I mean...
Despite my belief that Picard is freaking amazing, I actually think Kirk would win.
Well, okay, and you said equal crew,
Picard
too.
is like a nice guy.
Yeah.
And Kirk's like,
Right, but they're going to kill each other.
Like, he's
like, this is a battle to the death, and they each know they're going to kill each other.
So now we're doing death battles on this podcast.
Yeah, this is a bit of a departure from our normal theme. But, I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of a hard one a hard scenario to take, especially given that, like, in both of those shows, even though it's more highlighted with Picard, like, they usually try to find a diplomatic solution, and they usually do, right? Like, you have the Gorn episode where they were put in exactly this situation, where he was like, you're on this planet, you have equal resources, try to kill each other, and it still ended with him being like, no, and like, killing is not
good. But then wait, then you have Picard's version of the Gorn episode, where he was on a planet with a guy who said Darmok. When the walls fell.
Yeah.
And I think this evidences that Kirk is the better captain, because he got the cooler, more badass episodes.
I mean, the Gorn is like the best episode.
It is.
As a kid, I loved that Gorn so much.
Dude, the Gorn's amazing.
The Gorn is so
great.
Cool. His costume was great.
And he was so good at, like, hissing. And fighting so quickly.
Yep.
But I think Breeda has a good point that Kirk did not kill the Gorn, and he was in a death battle. He also did not kill Spock when he was in a death battle. Instead, he pretended to die himself.
He didn't pretend.
No, he died.
In a way, he surrendered, right?
Yeah.
And I think that makes the point that, like, our generation, because we watched The Next Generation a lot, we tend to compare Picard versus Kirk, and that's where Kirk gets his...
reckless.
Right, well, like being infamous for being more like the Chris Pine Kirk, right? The one who's just really rash and reckless and all that stuff. Because compared to Picard, he is. But really, he was actually a very professional guy who could be extremely diplomatic and was only occasionally super reckless, you know?
Oh, definitely. I fully agree. So you're saying that that Kirk is the better captain, is what you're saying?
I don't think that's what he said.
That's what I'm hearing.
You could say that, but okay, I don't know. They were still at war with the Klingons during Kirk's time, right?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and during Picard's time, not saying it was his doing.
Picard single-handedly ended that.
He had Worf on his crew,
he had a Klingon officer.
Well, it was pretty much single-handedly Picard's doing. Picard acted as the Klingon arbiter who chose the next Klingon prime minister. And then he had to come back and defend that prime minister from an internal coup. It was entirely Picard who saved the Klingon civilization.
And Picard, that's one thing about Picard that we know, is that he is very active in, I don't know if you would call it politics. He was instrumental in trying to save all of the Romulans before their star went supernova and killed them all, which also created
that always happen?
Well, that's where the alternate universe was created. So, like, he was working with Spock to save the Romulans. Spock ended up going to an alternate universe, also back in time. But Picard was like, we know that he has evidence of being very politically involved for really altruistic reasons, even when he's not being a captain necessarily, whereas we don't really have that much evidence for Kirk. Maybe we do, I don't know.
Yeah, in some of the movies we know he becomes like an admiral and is in charge of training some people at Starfleet because he's over the Kobayashi Maru test.
We also know that when Kirk is an admiral, if he is on a ship and he's not captain, he just freaks out when that captain sits down in the chair. He's like, like just staring, and then Scotty's like, is something wrong with your chair, sir? Because he's not sitting in the captain's chair.
Oh, poor Kirk. Yeah, I think that's good evidence that he's not the best captain.
No, he is the best captain. That's all he can do. I think this is honestly going to be a very polarizing opinion, but we think that Picard's the better captain.
Of course I'm going to go with Picard.
I mean, yeah.
Also, he's an amazing actor. And William Shatner is less than amazing.
Hey, I love William Shatner as an actor.
He's fun, yeah.
I'm just
He's
saying, objectively
amazing
speaking,
as an actor.
Patrick Stewart, you know.
I know, Patrick Stewart's got the chops, but William Shatner is William freaking Shatner. So we have crowned Picard as the greatest captain.
But hey, so against Picard, he keeps a dangerous piece of living equipment on his ship that has the ability to take over the ship and self-destruct it on a whim.
That is true.
I mean, it is dangerous to keep Data around.
I think that
even if he's a nice guy, he also saves them like every single episode, though.
All the time.
So often.
Literally.
Not just them. He saves like the universe all the time.
Yeah, he's very powerful. I would say though that this is interesting evidence. I would say it speaks to a larger facet of Picard's personality, which is that he is, I don't know if this is quite the right term, but like too forgiving or gives too many chances. He is very ready to like give people chance, like Data. So, for example, there are people in Starfleet who don't think Data should be an officer.
And there's very good reason.
And there's very good reason that he shouldn't be. But Picard is very willing to say, like, well, let's give him a chance and let's let him try. And to say, like, yeah, actually, he's doing very well.
Right.
How could the Federation ever have justified...
counterpoint to that, what about when Picard said, "Shut up, Wesley," and told Wesley what a horrible officer
So I
he
was going to say this earlier, that one of the evidences against Picard as a good captain is that he's terrible with children. Yeah. He's so bad. But like he literally couldn't even understand why Wesley blamed him when he was in command when Wesley's father died. And he was like baffled. Well, he takes Wesley to Starfleet Academy, and Wesley's like all excited to spend some time with Picard, and they literally spend like 4 hours in silence.
Yeah, but Picard wouldn't spend 4 hours of silence with Wesley? It's freaking Wesley.
I like Wesley.
Like, I counted against Picard that he humored Wesley so much over the course of Wesley's awful career.
And back to my original point, though, he is like, that does show a supreme lack of understanding of like human emotions and other people, that when Wesley tells him like, I blamed you for the death of my father, Picard is shocked. Like, he had literally never thought that was even a thing, and he almost seems like he doesn't understand it, when it seems pretty obvious that a child might blame the person in command.
Well, also, if you are the captain,
yeah, it is your
die, it is
like
your
it is on your shoulders. So yeah, I think that is actually some decent evidence against Picard.
I just have to say, I can't take anything Wesley ever does or says seriously, because he went to the academy and then participated in his own stupid little frat party, performing an awful maneuver, which he got someone killed or almost got someone killed, and basically should have been court-martialed, but weaseled his way out of it. And he lied about it to Picard and to everyone else. And that was enough. That single maneuver was enough to get frickin' Paris, who's the son of a general, in jail. Like, Paris did the same exact thing. Not the same maneuver, but it was his stupid idea to do a risky maneuver that put him in frickin' jail for the rest of his life. I mean, Paris's dad, General Paris, I think made appearances in Next Generation. The Paris family is surprisingly successful in the Star Trek universe. They go all the way back, I think, to the first generation.
To the fall of Troy.
Yeah, well, Diana Troy.
No, not Diana Troy.
Loxana
Troy.
Oh, yeah, that one. All the way back to when she fell down the stairs.
Because of Paris pushed her.
Oh, Paris, how could you?
Yeah, they call that the fall of Troy.
Dude, that's it.
The Star Trek lore is so rich.
I don't take anything Wesley says or does as good. He's bad.
Well, okay, but that's irrelevant whether or not you care about Wesley. Like, the problem there is that like Picard didn't understand that a child would blame him for being in command when his father died, and that's a situation in which it seems pretty obvious that a child might bear some resentment, and also, as Eric said, obvious that as the captain, it is your responsibility if someone dies under your command. And so, like, not even paying attention to the fact that it was Wesley who did this, like, that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, all I know is that Picard is also very stubborn. He will not admit that there are 5 lights.
It's true.
There are clearly 4 lights.
What are you talking about?
It's this weird episode where, was it the Romulans?
So this actually shows a very strong side of Picard, which is that he did not submit under torture and gaslighting. He refused to basically break and give in.
We gotta set this up for Breeda.
Yeah.
So he gets kidnapped, and he's basically kept in this dark room and be tortured for a while. And this guy keeps coming in and asking him how many lights are there, and there's 4. But he wants Picard to say there are 5. And he also makes Picard eat like an egg that has a weird wriggly living thing in it. That's all they give him to eat. I haven't seen this episode in a long time, though, so I can't really talk about it. I just always thought it was cool that, like, there are 4 lights, because there were 4 lights.
But then you said at the end he admits something?
Well, at the end...
Back on the Enterprise.
He says something like, but I think at the corner of my vision, I forget what he says, there actually were 5 lights.
Oh, no.
Right.
That makes the whole thing pointless.
But the problem... No, there weren't 5 lights. He's saying they broke him.
Oh, I see.
So, I think we have to talk about another captain who I know nothing about. Oh, what?
I never got to say my piece about Data.
Yeah, what about
sorry,
Data?
Go for it. What about Data?
I just think it's ridiculous that the Federation could even be convinced to make a creature that has a positronic brain, like an artificial creature that was programmed and made by someone else with a brain they don't even understand, into an officer, not only an officer, but a commander in the Federation. Like, I feel like that's irresponsible, as is evidenced by many different episodes where he takes over and almost self-destructs the Enterprise.
Do they understand the human brain? Do they understand the Vulcan brain?
All right.
I mean, they don't understand fully any brain of any officer.
This is a brain created
so what makes
by
Data
a
any
person.
different?
I think the problem here is the intentionality behind creating his brain. Like, the person who did this did understand
and
that
the person
brain,
who
right?
did this literally created an evil robot. They're only
I mean, he created a robot that chose to be evil. I mean,
that's
lots of
debatable.
parents have created
Perhaps
people that
he
choose
just-
to be evil.
Perhaps he just programmed it wrong.
Yeah. Or programmed it right. Maybe he wanted
Well, then
to
you're
create
getting
an
into a
evil
case of how you raise your kids, right? I mean, you can program your kid by
No, I'm
raising
saying
them
this
badly.
is a robot.
I
This
don't
is an
think that's
android,
the
not
same.
a kid.
And what
That's-
evidence do you have that it's different?
Well, but okay, so even if we do say that is the same, then like,
I'm saying from the perspective of Starfleet,
yeah.
right? Like,
And I'm saying that, like, I think Starfleet would have at least some serious issues and reservations about, like, say, taking the child of a known serial killer who was raised by them to believe good is evil and evil is good and making them into a commanding officer. Like, so even by Torvald's
Right, so you're saying Data's brother's actions should have, the sins of his brother were needed to be paid for by him?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, like, the intentionality behind raising a child to believe a certain thing, or behind programming a robot to believe a certain thing, should be considered in a way that I think Eric is saying that the Starfleet did not, that they just made him into an officer without really considering what was programmed into his positronic brain that they can't understand.
Sure, but then if they say, hey, you can't be in the Federation because we don't understand your brain, what's to stop them from saying that to any other species?
Right,
Like, I think that's a slippery
what I was
slope.
saying is, like, okay, so you're saying we don't understand the human brain, and the human brain was made by parents intentionally, right? But at the same time, like, humans don't understand their own brain. The guy who programmed Data does understand the positronic brain, right? And that makes it different, that he intentionally created a brain, put things into it that he understands that we do not. Like, I think that's different.
Now, I think that Noonien Sung does not fully understand Data's positronic brain. I think
he
he
clearly
understands.
doesn't fully understand
That is,
lore.
yeah, that
Right.
is true.
I think
That's
he
a good point.
understands the components of Data's brain, but I think that it's like machine learning, right? And of course, whatever Data is would not be the exact same as machine learning, but this is the best comparison I have.
No, I understand.
If you're writing a machine learning program, then once you write the program to train it, like, you have it train on Data. And I don't mean Data the robot. I mean Data the
I know what you
concept
mean.
of information. Right? And you have it train itself on Data, and you don't control it during this point. Like, I mean, there are different kinds of training where you can exercise more or less control over the machine learning algorithm. But either way, it trains itself, and it builds its own, it's almost like a geometric shape of how it will choose an action when it reaches a decision point. So I'm saying that Data's positronic brain was like this, but so much more complex that I'm sure Dr. Noonien Sung did not sit there and wire every synapse to every other synapse. Like, there must have been some amount of self-training involved there, just like in humans.
No,
So
I think you're right. And I
So
actually...
maybe Data was the best captain.
Maybe. I actually think that might be possible. And I actually don't necessarily agree with Eric's fundamental point being that it's genuinely irresponsible of Starfleet to have him as a commanding officer. But I would say that once he has proven that he can just take over unilaterally and do those things, that they didn't put any safeguards in place.
Right.
I kind of do agree with Eric's point. Even though I'm arguing against it, I think that the Federation gave Data free reign over that ship. Basically, he could do whatever he wanted, and they couldn't.
I mean, I feel like
him.
maybe he could be peacefully studied, and they could let him be a citizen and a normal person. Maybe they could even let him work as but not as a commanding officer who has charge over humans, right? Like, well, I mean, other species that are,
other
not robots.
Life.
Yeah. Anyway,
right.
Just a little weird.
Well, I mean, but then you get down to the question of, did he pass all the tests to become an officer? And if so, limiting him would be discrimination.
Well,
right?
but also, like, he would have passed those tests, like, just so much easier than any normal being, right? Like,
doesn't that make him more qualified?
His abilities surpass anything.
I think there is a pretty good argument for Data being the best captain, but I don't know that I have.
I can't remember. I know he's been captain in some episodes, but I just can't. I haven't rewatched.
I haven't seen them soon enough to really make the argument. So.
But wait, here is another evidence for maybe Data shouldn't be a commanding officer over normal creatures.
Sure. Let's hear it.
In the first episode, he's trying to learn how to sneeze.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand the concept of sneezing. How can he be an officer over people who sneeze and do many other things? He doesn't understand emotions.
Okay,
he tries,
is
though.
sneezing a qualification for being an officer? Like I said, he passed all the tests for becoming an officer. Now he wants to learn to sneeze. That's like saying he's trying to learn a magic trick. Should he become an officer if he learns a magic trick?
I think what Eric is saying is that sneezing is
not a magic trick.
Not a magic trick, no. But I think it's representative of a broader spectrum of like understanding human emotion and physiology in a meaningful way to engage with other humans, right?
Sure, but then from Data's perspective, humans do a lot of things for no reason, right? Like sometimes I'll go, well, I'm talking. Doesn't mean anything. I just do it every once in a while.
Well, he just did, Eric.
It doesn't communicate stuff. Sometimes I yawn, right? Like from Data's perspective, who is not a biological organism, he sees these things as things people do, and he wants to emulate them, right? Just like you might see someone do a cool magic trick, and you want to learn it.
And
like
I agree
he
with
is
that.
Fascinated by humans. In that episode, he wanted to learn about sneezing. It's not a bad thing.
Like, what if Klingons could just make like a weird roar sound that no one else can make? If another human was like mimicking that, would that be racist?
So you're saying Data is racist against humans by trying to sneeze?
Or would it come off that way, whether it was intentionally racist or not?
No, I will say also that in terms of things that Data doesn't understand about humans, though, as Torvald has pointed out, like he is a very complex learning machine, and I think he shows that he can learn to empathize and to understand these things pretty well, as evidenced by the episode where Diana Troy gives birth, something that he's never seen at all and doesn't really understand but has read about, and he is the one who stands by her side and helps her through it and does a very good job.
That's true.
And then when he's dating that girl and they're having a nice evening, and then he gets up and says, "You're not my mother."
What? Oh yeah.
He dates this lady.
Yeah, he tries to. I remember now.
And he tries to have a fight because he read that
he's just trying to have a rom-com moment with her.
Perhaps the problem is with you.
Data's great.
And then when she breaks up with him, he's like, "So is our relationship terminated?" And she's like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, okay, then I'll delete the appropriate."
He says, "I'll delete the subroutine I made for our relationship."
Yep.
No, but that's the most romantic thing he could have done, which is programming a subroutine just for how to interact with his beloved one, right?
Yep.
Like, he doesn't do that for anyone else in the Enterprise.
It's
true.
true.
He was being a good boyfriend.
And also,
as far
even though
as he
he
could.
hooked up with Tasha Yar, not based on any emotions, he recognized that can be an emotional thing for humans, and he keeps a picture of her even after she's dead.
Whether he actually feels for that picture or not, he does it out of duty or something.
And out of an understanding of humans, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily have emotions, but he does appreciate things. Like, things are important to him. not like emotionally, like he doesn't love them, but they are meaningful to him. Like these things have value to him, as evidenced by one time when Geordi was sick and becoming a freaky, veiny monster.
Was that the episode when everyone
Data
was
was
like,
We
trying.
had an action figure up.
oh, yeah,
Well,
we
Data,
did.
we did. That was such a good action figure. But Data was trying to solve this problem by doing the almost impossible task of like comparing a partial footprint that they found in a blurry video to every footprint ever cataloged ever in the database. And I think Crusher was like, "Why are you doing this, Data? It's not going to be worth it." And he was like, "Well, I might not be able to feel for Geordi, but you might say that I'm highly motivated to help him." Right?
Yeah.
So he values certain things, and although not driven by emotion, he is driven by how much he cares for things and people.
And for not being able to feel for Geordi, like that probably is the strongest relationship in Star Trek is Data and Geordi.
Yeah.
Yep. Besides Geordi and the ship, who we
Geordi and
programmed
Hugh.
into a holographic
Geordi and
girl.
Hugh.
Geordi and any mechanical thing.
Yeah.
Data is the best captain. That's what we're saying. Every time he performed as captain, he did things no other captain could.
Yes,
true.
that is true.
I mean, he can command the whole ship on his own.
Yeah, there's one more captain we need to discuss, though. Captain Riker.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
Well, but
no,
isn't
it's
Riker
true. Riker,
just
he should
Kirk?
get a little discussion.
The
Well,
second in command.
But
like,
similar to your argument of Pike being Kirk Light,
Yeah,
wouldn't
no, I
Riker
know.
be?
I
Yeah.
was actually going to say that, and then I was like, I already said that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Riker does a pretty good job. I mean, that woman says he's not capable of making the big decisions, and then he fires on Captain Picard as a Borg, so.
I mean, he does a lot of cool things.
Which ship would win in a race?
Like
the USS
relationship?
Enterprise, Kirk's Enterprise, or the Excelsior?
What? Well, I mean, the Excelsior.
Yeah,
'Cause it's-
Excelsior
it's
had like
blue.
it had the Infinity engine or something.
Right, and it's got like racing stripes. Like it had long blue marks on. It just looked faster.
No, that was the Excelsior's special thing, which was it had the new engine and it could accelerate better or something.
That's why,
Like-
accelerate. Except
Yeah.
that it's spelled completely different.
It's the Accelerate CR. So yeah, I think conclusively,
Picard is the best captain.
and Excelsior is the fastest ship.
Yes. So, Breeda, how many thumbs ups does that theory get?
I mean, it gets one fin up.
Yeah.
All right, one fin up.
Also,
Dude.
Breeda was wounded when she was a loan shark. She only has one fin.
That's right.
So that's a pretty
Oh,
good
no.
rating.
No,
All right,
I mean,
we got it.
I think I need to know more about your rating scale to figure out how.
Well, we're
No,
actually thinking
you
we
don't
might
need to
phase-
know any more
We
about
might
it.
phase it out. 'cause
Okay.
We're not
It's
sure
leaving.
if we're even going to use it. We used to do thumbs up, but we're not sure we're going to keep doing
Now
that.
you do bags of popcorn, but then it's not a very good scale either because the popcorn isn't real. So, like, what
Right,
does it
then
mean?
we'd have to
Everything's
say,
made up
is
and the popcorn
the
doesn't
popcorn
matter.
real or not? But then we'd have to define what not being real is.
I think if it's real, you believe the theory. So,
I
Breeda, is
see.
this popcorn? Gosh, that sounds
No, I
stupid.
think
Is
if it's
this
real, you
popcorn
believe the
real?
original.
And then-
If
no,
it's
no.
not real, you believe the theory.
You say, "Is this popcorn real?" And then if the answer is yes, then you do a crunch sound of eating the popcorn. It was a good question. Thank you for sparking that discussion.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to our awesome discussion of Star Trek. We hope that you enjoyed hearing about all the various captains and how they compare to each other. This has been Leif Eric and my brother Torvald and my road movie buddy, sister Breeda, and we will see you guys later. Thank you so much for listening. Opening music for this episode was provided by Christine. If you want to see how our theory holds up, we provide links in the episode description where you can enjoy the media we discuss. And if you like our podcast, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcasts. And remember, the popcorn isn't real.